Yes, it is. Hi, everyone. I'm Trevor, council chair for right now. Just wanted to kind of have a meeting space for us to talk about the letter that went out just after Easter, regarding an idea that we're investigating, but nothing is really set in stone just yet. We're really just looking to have a conversation with the congregation, and see what ideas you guys might have as far as feedback. So, I think we just want this to be an open dialogue, a lot of reception, hopefully on both sides. Like I said, nothing's set in stone. So lucky to have District Superintendent Gross here with us. Thank you. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. We'll be as transparent as we can, but I'll turn it over to Bryson. Or I guess I'll take over the first slides right here. Today we're seeking your feedback on potentially engaging a year-long discernment process focused on forming a cooperative parish among the Loveland Methodist communities. For those in the back, Trinity is not a failing church. Trinity is a faithful church and it has a real strength, but we do also face real challenges. So I think as part of that, Bryson kind of outlined where we've come from and where we plan to go as part of this, or where we hopefully plan to go. That is much louder.
Yes, we want it much louder.
They want it much louder.
Should I be louder?
Yes, because some of the people have hearing assists and can't hear you.
Is this better? No, that's fine. I can back it off. Yeah, I mean, with that, I'll turn it over to Bryson and have him kind of talk about.
All right, just to be clear here, what we're talking about is we're talking about a course of conversations for the possibilities. Again, there is nothing set in stone. Again, we are looking for input. And again, it is not because of any of the things you see on the screen there, or any of the negative things you see on the screen there. So many of us are wondering why this conversation now, and I apologize, the slide is a little small here, so I will try to read it as best I can, and we'll send this out afterwards for those who are watching online or who will watch later. So why this conversation now? Well, as many of us hopefully remember, we have been the beneficiaries of a grant from the Mount Sky Conference that went to support our efforts to start communion as a worshiping community. We've gotten that grant for 4 years now. However, this year will be the last. So over the 4 years of that grant, we've received $130,000 from the conference. Just want to make sure that that total gets out there. They've been a faithful partner in all we've tried to do. So just greatly appreciative of that. But they told us when we applied for the grant, it would, most grants go 3 to 5 year cycle. So we've made it to 4. That's what we expected. So, but that grant is now concluded. And the last grant is for $10,000. It's not on there, but it goes straight to union. It will not benefit a clergy assigned union. So that is the last grant we're getting. This year, we're working with a $34,000 grant. So that's how much we got this year to support union. So that's the amount of funds we have been receiving that we will no longer receive in the future. So being that that's such a big number, our leadership has been in conversation about what that looks like when it comes to our budget, the life of our church, how we're allocating resources. And we are currently in the process of wondering what our leadership structure looks like. Is this going to be enough of an offset where we might look to reorganize and possibly not have a full-time pastor, because the pastor's salary is the biggest draw on the budget right now. Or, I mean, we've been discussing a lot of different potential things. So why this particular idea has come out is because it leans into what's been working well for us. So the Loveland Methodist community, that being us, First Methodist and Union, we do a lot of good together. The union was formed out of the work of the two congregations. It has been going for 4 years now, and it is a rock solid small group system for sure. We have unfortunately not gotten to some of the dreams we had, but we're still doing a lot of great things. We still have a great amount of active participation, and we're in transition too. We're trying to figure out what our next iteration looks like now that the grant is complete. But the partnership that's come out has produced some amazing things, a lot of which our church has either led or had huge contributions, like trusted community garden. We've had studies that have been shared here between us and First Church. We've had joint worship experiences, although we don't do a lot of those with our community ministerial lives. First Church is one of the churches that was here on Monday, Thursday, when we had 70 people who celebrated the Last Supper and watching. So there is a lot that is going well between the two churches. Our children's ministry, you might have noticed that we had, 7 of them up there today? We average about 4 now. That's about over the last 5 years, we've gotten up to 4, but considering we were at 0, that's pretty good. The First Church is seeing similar numbers. It's one of those, our children's ministry, which we share between the 3 churches, is producing some good things. Our ministry, our mission ministry that we do together occasionally is producing some good things. So the question is, the question is, can we do more? Jared wants to.
Just talking about like the garden club and one of the joint ministries we have now. I think we think that I have in garden club right now at the shared garden space over here next to Trusted. And I think he's found real value in it, just being able to go to a place after school with some kids and learn how to put his hands in dirt. But I know the teachers themselves who are running it have talked about how appreciative they are of the space and the work that we've done to make that welcoming for the children. So yeah, I guess as part of that, they are also potentially looking for help over the summer while the kids aren't there. So if anybody would like to contribute more, we welcome that. But yeah, I just wanted to echo that. I think that's been a really successful thing. I think Union in general has been really successful. I think it's like it's community, right? I think the true community where you can come and be as you are and accepted for who you are. And like I echo what Bryce was saying, like we started going to Union and it's bringing us here. So without that wouldn't be the case. So I'm thankful for them.
So we are seeing a lot of these great things that we're doing together, and both churches are experiencing a lot of the same challenges. And so about this time last year, the clergy of the churches, that would be Reverend Leslie Wood, Reverend Lee Anderson Harris, and myself, we started being kind of looking at the future and evaluating where we're at. We started wondering, is it worth potentially doing more together and having some official ties that would make it easier for us to do joint ministry. And that's where the idea of the cooperative parish came from, which is a very long-held tradition in the United Methodist Church. So this is one of the ways we've done ministry for a long time. So while it may be new for us, this is not new to our system. And to better describe some of what that might look like, we have our superintendent Jessica with us today, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about what that could be, what that might entail.
Well, I got my math to happy you. So as Grayson said, a cooperative parish is not new. United Methodist Church has done cooperative parishes for decades. We see them in the cities, we see them in rural areas, we see them all across the country. We have cooperative parishes of 2 churches and cooperative parishes of 5 or 6 churches. We actually have one clergy who's serving 8 churches up in Montana right now, up in the High Line. And so we're developing a parish of these 8 churches. Every cooperative parish looks different. There's not one formula. It's not a cookie cutter approach. We really focus on the context of that particular setting and develop a cooperative parish to match the needs of that context. So the great part of that is there isn't something that the churches have to conform to. The hard part of that is there's not a lot of detailed answers about what exactly this looks like yet, because that's what the conversations between the 2 churches decide. what we're inviting folks into is conversation to see if a cooperative parish makes sense for the Loveland churches. And if so, what that might look like in order to best serve both churches. So this isn't something that the conference decides or the conference dictates to the churches. This is something that the churches decide, and that the churches form and shape how this particular cooperative parish might look. There are a lot of different possibilities. Oftentimes, a cooperative parish, the clergy are appointed to that parish, and so there's more shared leadership amongst the clergy across the churches. Sometimes churches have other shared staff, like you do now with the union staff. So kind of think about your union staff and how that, Desiree, right, works.
He works through all three.
Yeah, it works with all three communities. You could have other staff, program staff, administrative staff, who might work with all three communities as well. Could. There's lots of coulds and potentials. Right now, there aren't any you have to, or this is how it must look. And so part of what we're really talking about right now is venturing into that conversation of what might be and how it could look and the benefits for both churches. We wouldn't do this unless both churches saw benefits from it. We're not looking to promote one church over another. This really is about a United Methodist presence, ministry, witness in Loveland and beyond Loveland. But it has to be good for both churches for it to happen. Basic summary. Bryson, anything?
I think something to add is that the idea came from this community rather than it coming from the Methodist congregation. It came from this community, like the Loveland Methodist community first. Like Bryson was talking with Lee Anderson, Harris, and the Methodist pastors over there, and we're talking about the great work that we are already doing and how we can continue to build on that, and that's where the idea came from. This is not necessarily like an idea from somebody that's being handed down to us as a mandate. It's definitely an exploratory conversation that was born from this area. So.
We'll get some, I know there's a lot of questions around that, so we'll get to our Q&A here pretty quick, but just to kind of speak towards that a little bit. Basically, what we're talking about here is not a merger, not a takeover. This has not been decided yet. There will still be a Trinity United Methodist Church. We're not going anywhere, but how we do ministry might change and be a little more jointly done. You're having all sorts of sound problems. So that's what we're talking about here. And I think we've covered that already. So what we're talking about here is, again, we're not even making a decision to do this anytime soon. What we want to do is there's the mutual interest between the clergy. We pitched it to the congregations to discuss. Next thing we want to do is bring together groups from each congregation and union to visit about it. To say, is this a good idea? Is this the best use of our funds? This is the best ministry we can do together. So to literally sit down and talk about it. And from those, we might determine that this is a great idea and determine how it might look. From those conversations, we might determine, no, this is not the way our churches want to go, but we're doing work together. Maybe we can continue in the form and fashion we are now. So literally, it's just kind of a giant brainstorming session. I could almost say a year-long brainstorming session where we're looking at this possibility and saying, does it fit? If so, how? And just dreaming with God. And so this would not look to be implemented, if it's implemented at all, until around this time in 2027. So as you can hear, this is this is not a very set process. There's not a lot of flows, functions that are in place here. We're trying to keep this open and organic, trying to listen deeply to this possibility and whether or not it connects with what Trinity needs and what will benefit our mission and industry and union. So again, we are asking permission to have a conversation. So also just to note, church council has not endorsed the end of this, but they have endorsed the conversation process. They think it's a worthwhile thing for us to ask the congregation. So that brings it to you all. This is what the idea we've had. We're here to listen and to understand where you're coming from. So answer questions best you can. So please.
This is a finance situation.
The cooperative parish, the question was, I'll parrot the question because I don't think the folks online can hear because our sound system arrangement didn't work out. But the question is this a financial issue? The cooperative parish is not a financial issue. We do have a financial issue here at Trinity because of the discontinuation, the ending of the CDC grant. So that stands alone from the cooperative parish conversation. It makes an interesting reason why we might get into that conversation and might look into that idea. But that ending of the grant money is something we will deal with regardless of whether we decide to move forward with the cooperative parish discussion or not.
We're talking with the pastor because the folks money they don't have but
Yes.
earlier. Is this a matter about cutting down on the number of factors between, say, like, First Church and Trinity? Is this a matter of cutting down on factors and say, like, how the service 8:30 in the morning, 1 to 10 o'clock in the morning?
It's not that not that in an immediate sense. That might be something that potentially ends up in the distant future, but in the reality, I can't really speak to what First Church is going through with their finances, but I do know our statement, and the fact is my salary, the pastor's salary, is the biggest element in that right now. And when we're looking at not having $34,000 that we did last year, it makes you scratch your head and ask some questions. Do we have some reserves we can draw from? Yes. Could we ask for additional giving from the congregation? Of course. But that's not a good long-term plan. That's not a sustainable idea to work with. So that's why the leadership has been considering the potential of less than half time or less than full time, less than full time. I'm tired. This is normally when I'm napping, so you can tell that my brain is being unconscious right now. Did that answer your question, Rick?
With inflation in the way it's gone up, it would be hard for a pastor or an assistant pastor to work in a part-time situation.
Yeah, the comment was it would, with inflation going up, it's hard for somebody to work in a part-time situation. Absolutely. That's not just the case for pastors, that's everybody right now. And that raises another interesting thing to plug in here. It's universally true that costs are rising in our budget no matter what, and that's by the things we cannot control. So gas prices are going up, water prices are going up. Insurance, our insurance package is, we still have insurance, thank God, but every year Church Mutual is asking more. And so our costs are increasing. That's just universal right now.
And I think an important thing to keep in mind is like with the grant going away, like Bryson said, it's not necessarily realistic to ask these certain things to try and supplement that because it's not necessarily sustainable. So like one way or another, the reality is things financially and things with the church are changing in one capacity or another. So how can we best accommodate the needs of the congregation while still supporting the message of the Methodist community, right? So I think that's probably where the main idea came from, is if changes to come, how can we best make sure that this is a change that is good for the congregation, good for the Methodist community, and good for Loveland in general? So.
I do want to say that the motivation for this is not financial at this time. That is not why the question came up. The question came up because of the good work that the two churches are already doing together. Bryson and Lee and Leslie have been really intentional about collaborative ministry between First and Trinity, which union came out of. And so then great collaboration has been happening between the three communities. And so the question was asked, can there be more? What else can the two churches and union be doing together? Can we go from collaborative, kind of informal collaborative work to a more formalized cooperative parish? It wasn't a financial question. It wasn't necessarily a financial motivation. There can be financial benefits from it. But I want folks to know we're not looking at doing this out of any weakness of any of the communities. The idea is to come together in strength. What are the strengths of Trinity, of First, of Union? How can we build upon those strengths to better serve Loveland and beyond Loveland? And then what other benefits might come from it? Financial, other shared resources, personnel, all of that is on the table for discussion. But the motivation for this conversation is looking at what has already been going well. What have the churches and union already been doing a good job of, and building upon those strengths. So really coming from this in a strength-based motivation. Not a scarcity, not a weakness, not a fear, but in a strength and abundance mentality is what raised the question. And I've seen cooperative parishes come together out of fear and scarcity. They don't usually work very well. I've seen cooperative parishes come together because something was going right and we wanted to build upon it. And those can really flourish. So making sure that we're doing this in a mindset of abundance, of hope, of God's presence with us, grace space, will be really important as we engage these conversations if the churches decide to do so. Yeah.
Why don't you just leave it up to the ministry? They want to get together and do things with the time. Why do all this other stuff?
Well, the question is, can there be more that is done if it goes beyond the ministers? That's the question. The clergy have been doing a great job and been bringing leadership in, and it continues to grow. So the idea is in this conversation to see if there's even more that can be done when we take it from a clergy to a congregation-wide involvement. That's the question. Can there be more? Can there be more ministry? Can there be more outreach? Can there be more witness in Loveland if it's congregation-wide rather than limited to the clergy? That'll be the question.
Would it help if I shared something that it's part of the conversation Lee, Leslie, and I have had where we thought, wow, cooperative care would help there. But that, so I wish Desiree was here, but she wasn't here. But Desiree's the works our children family ministry between the three churches, and if you asked her, she would say, hey, she loves what she does, except for one thing, and that is how she's managed these administration system above her, because she reports to three different leadership bodies. She reports to RSVR, to Union's leadership, and the First Church's SVR. And so it is so difficult to get one voice to help her with stuff she's experiencing. So often the problem she has, some of the things she's facing, are universal across the three areas, but to get more resources, say, First Church, she has to go to one person. To go to get more resources or help here at Trinity, she has to go to another person. And unfortunately, both of her SPR liaisons have resigned due to family issues. So it's like, there's a lot of just, she's trying to navigate a complex administrative system. So Leslie, Lee, and I have put our heads together and be like, ah, if we could have one group that was over her, that we could be her kind of manager or like her team. I mean, just somebody to work alongside her so she wouldn't have to navigate this phase. So that's just one way I think cooperative parish could come connect us to the better, helping us do some more, I guess, more efficient children's ministry, you could say. And I have a feeling if we were able to give Desiree some better support and guidance, she is doing some wonderful things. I mean, I know several of us went to the egg hunt on Palm Sunday. We estimated we reached 500 people at that event. The lines were so long that they were outside of the First Church Fellowship Hall door. We have a huge problem for next year. How do we deal with all that people? That is a good problem to have. And we tend to have stuff like that when we connect to the two children's ministries, three children's ministries. We have a lot more participation. We have a lot more energy in the room, and there's a lot more potential. So it's like one of those, if we can reorient the organizations under that to support that, what else is possible? So that's sort of the interesting things that can come out of this. Do you want Mike, or do you want me to pair it?
I guess this that is all the possible stuff with the children and restaurant. Is that more a basically kind of a union, or would Paris share it out? Trying to figure out what is it maintaining union, maintaining their sharing? What would help it maintain them?
So help me understand what you were saying there. So I heard that. So are things like Truscott maintaining Union, First Church, or Trinity Church the most? Was that the question?
Union goes away. Sounds like it is parish sharing. You got that?
Union's not going away. It's going to be a different form. We had our original dreams were to be sort of our own worshiping community in Loveland, connected with the two churches, but unfortunately, the bandwidth of our participants and some of the realities of life have not led to that. But we've always been a really good small group in discipleship. That's what we're going to try to seek to be in this next iteration. Become financially stable with that, and then to build up from that. So we're not going to be the form we were, but we're still around, and we're still actually we're looking to connect more with our two parent churches.
So
Well, our church has a lot of old people in it. And so I don't know what First Church has, I'll go over there. We need to get together someplace that we can all work together. And we need to know, like the union people, we have no idea who the people are except the other one. But we need to get together and do things together. Like she said, I know in Florida, one time we went down there, there's like two churches got together and they would once a month put on a meal and work at it and make money at it. And it was a good making money because a lot of older people like to go. So I think you have to have a committee or something to go together and talk about this stuff. Because I know I'm getting older and you can't depend on all the people that are in their 90s and 80s. So we've got to have more help. And I know they want help with the kids and stuff. But it's getting together and having more help. So we can go and do more things.
I think that makes sense, 100%. I agree. I think it's part of this too, like we mentioned, sort of a joint leadership team to help navigate through these conversations. I think that probably will end up happening as far as conversations between churches. I think some of the intention between the cooperative parish is really to build on things like the Joy Luncheon and potentially get more outreach there or different mission meals like Chef Carl doing his fundraisers for the church and everything like that. I think that's a really great point. I agree. We need more support like that. And if there is another model for us to have, I mean, really just a wider pool to be able to access for help in some of these events, I think that's a real bonus to what we're looking for here.
It's also have more input as to what's going on in the churches. Because there are, I know you put it out there, because sometimes people don't do that. We still need to communicate more. But without communication, we have nothing.
Absolutely, that's why we're starting this process the way we are. We're coming together for a long period of talking about it. So, and Trevor's absolutely right. There are a lot of mechanisms about what you're interested in there that are already there, but closer ties might help us utilize them better. I mean, we have the Joy Fellowship, which that's our group of kids at 55 and older, but they have one meal a month and some other activities, and it's based on supporting people who are older in that frame of life. And we do an excellent job at that. We've invited First Church to join in, but somehow that connection's never been made. So one of those, maybe a part of a cooperative parish effort or greater connection with them could be, let's figure out how we do better senior ministry together. And the meal ministry, yes, Carl does a once a month meal, and it's part of how he gives to the churches. He buys the ingredients, he makes food, and then sells tickets for it, and the tickets sold go to the mission team of each church. We did that for the first time with him last month, and we raised $60 for our mission. So we can do that, we can utilize that, and I actually visited with Ken over there. He's a chef and might be able to help make meals like that. So there's connections that can be made there. We can come together and leverage the great things that are happening to make them even better. And you're absolutely right about communication. That's one thing we will need to really emphasize throughout this process of our giving process.
The more you do right, the more and the more they think you right, we need to combine them.
Amen. Patty just said for Brian and Pat, Patty just said, the more we do right and the more they do right, if we combine it, it becomes even better.
More information.
Absolutely. We need a mechanism to connect and we do a mechanism where we can connect on those and build things together. That is the cooperative therapy. Boy, yeah, we can be.
I'm really excited about the prospect of a cooperative parish. We've been here for a while now, and I've always wondered why are we the church across the track? Why? So it's exciting when we do things together as it is. My concern would be the sharing of resources. When seemingly First Church has some greater resources than we do, what do we have to contribute?
That's a very good question. Kate was expressing some excitement. For this prospect, but noted kind of the dynamic between the two groups. They are a little bit bigger than us. So how do we have an equal and valued contribution to that? That's a great question that we would have to really bring out in our future meetings. There are.
I think something to lean on there to kind of help answer maybe a lot of the conversations that First will be having over the next few years are conversations that Trinity has already had over the last 5 to 10 years. We've already dealt with a lot of the financial tough decisions that they're going to have to make over the next couple of years. So like being able to share some of our wisdom, some of our experiences, I think would be the real value to them. I think that we've got a lot of smart people in the room that have helped get this church in a really stable position. And I feel like we're really well positioned in the game. So I think they could really show something out.
I was with First Church 2 weeks ago. We had this conversation, worship and conversation and potluck, very similar. And one of the things I said then is we're not looking to bring churches together to say everybody splits everything 50-50. That's not really necessarily what you have to do in a cooperative parish. If you have one church who has more financial resources and one church less, each church pays what it can. So we're not looking to say 50-50, everything equal split. That wouldn't be part of the conversation. There's the reality, the financial reality, the staff reality, the clergy reality that are different for each of the two churches. And so how do we create a way of coming together that honors the identity, the unique and individual identity and reality of each church, including Union, and talks about how we're better coming together. Not worried about 50-50, not worried about everything has to be equal. Even, you know, sometimes we use those words equal. You know, what does equity look like in this situation when one congregation might be able to afford a clergy and a half and the other one 4.5? Well, then you come together for 2 and each church pays what it can. So that will be part of the conversations. But Trinity has a lot to bring, even if it doesn't have half of what, you know, the other half of First. So I think it'll be important for that mindset of what are the strengths of each congregation and how do we build from those strengths?
Just want to speak about Union a little bit. The question is, who is Union, right? There's, I think Bryson said, an average of 10 households that kind of regularly attend Union events, and we've got 4 of them in the room here, and I'm sure you've met several others, Pauline, Megan, Carl, and so it's not a big group, but we are, you know, working on our plan to be kind of more self-sustaining and what that looks like in the future. And then I think it would be helpful. I think what was helpful for me too is to understand what are kind of the demographics of First. How many members do they have? Of the average age? Because I think you spoke to you know, the age of the church. They're an aging community as well. There's not a lot of younger families at First either. So it's I don't think it's that much different from a demographic perspective of this church, but maybe Bryson or Justin, you can speak to that. I know
We're very similar. They may have a few more, but I would bet if you break down the demographics of age, race, socioeconomic stuff, I bet we would look very, very similar. Just in a slightly smaller format.
Other questions? So 2 weeks ago at First, I did a straw poll just to get a feel for where the congregation in this conversation is. Are folks interested in engaging this further and seeing what the possibility is? This is an official vote. This is just kind of getting a read on where folks are so we know next steps. So if you're willing to show a raise of hands, if you're interested in taking the next step into the conversation, you raise your hand. Okay. Great. That kind of shows us that we're at least ready to engage the conversation. The next step is both conversations individually within the churches and then bringing a team together from each congregation and union, all 3, to begin some more conversation and some next steps. So thank you. Thanks for asking the questions. Thanks for being here. This really is lay-led, clergy-led. The conference and the district are here to support. So any way that we can be supportive, let us know. But we're not dictating, we're not running this. This really is coming out of the church. So we're just excited to see what happens.
Just want to check, Brian and Pat Walsh are with us online. Did you have any comments or anything? It's kind of hard for us to take you into account sometimes. So any thoughts?
I guess my only concern is that the I don't have, can you hear me?
But we can't hear you. Everybody's having issues today.
I'm unmuted, I don't know.
How about this? If you can share that with me, I'll put it out. We're putting out a post-meeting recap and we can put out that comment you had if that works. And again, there's a whole year for us to discuss this, so thank you for being with us, Pat Brian. We appreciate you. Oh, happy birthday, Pat. You got ratted
Thank you.
out.
They do think it's our birthdays this year.
For sharing your thoughts and being open to a possibility. More than happy to listen to you offline. So if you have other thoughts you weren't able to share, or if you have any ideas that pop up in the middle of the night, you think, oh, that would be a great thing for Pastor Bryce to hear about, let me know. But just know we're in a very interesting time, but we're used to being in interesting times in this church. And we always seem to come out of it better with a lot more love and grace for each other. And we continue to do wonderful work. So I think no matter which way we go with any of this, that's going to result. God is sending us out now. Thanks, friends. Appreciate all your time and everything you do. Can I ask for that? God, we thank you for this day, for the chance to hear about the dream, possibility of what you think could be. So God, help us to figure out how this dream might look. Help us to see the things that we might do better, or we might continue to do well where I go. God, we trust in you throughout this process that your spirit will lead us and that it will take us out now to be a blessing to our community. May we go out and show the love and light of Jesus Christ to all we meet and help this world see the love of God that's waiting for all. In his name we pray.